Good afternoon, ma'am. So, my topic is all about the introduction of the chapter 6, which is synthesis, making informed decision. So, chapter's objective, after the reading of this chapter, you should be able to, number 1, identify the different factors that shape an individual in her moral decision making. Number 2, internalize the necessary steps towards making informed decision. And the last one, apply the ethical theory or frameworks that moral issues involving the self, society, and non-human environment. So as an introduction, so what is the value of college level class in ethics? We have been introduced the four ethical theories or the frameworks. So the number one is the utilitarianism. Number two, natural law of ethics. Number three, Kantian deontology. Number four is virtue ethics. So utilitarianism is an ethical theory that determines the right from wrong by focusing on outcomes. It is a form of consequentialism. Utilitarianism holds that the most ethical choice is the one that will produce the greatest good for the greatest number. This would arguably produce the greatest good and the greatest number. Utilitarianism is focusing on the result or the outcomes, which is doon natin makikita kung ang tama kumpara doon sa mali. Kasi nga doon sa result, if this result or outcomes is good or bad. So next theory is the natural law. Natural law is the theory in ethics and philosophy that says that human beings possess intrinsic values that govern our reasoning and behaviors. Natural law maintains that this rule of right and wrong are inherent in people and are not created by society or a court judges. The number 3 is the Kantian ethics. Kantian ethics refers to a deontological ethical theory developed by German philosopher Immanuel Kant. Si Immanuel Kant yung nag-develop ng theory na ito. That is based on the notion that it is impossible to think of anything that all in the world, or indeed even beyond it, that could be considered good without limitation except a good will. So the last theory is the virtue ethics. Virtue ethics is a class of normative ethical theories which treat the concept of moral virtues as central to ethics. Those theories I've mentioned a while, none of them is definitive or final na yung mga theory na yon na magpapaliwanag about making informed decisions, especially as an individual. Walang nagpapaliwanag doon or walang exact na theory doon na nagsasabi na yun yung sagot sa pagiging in making informed decision. What then is the use of studying them? It represents the best attempts of the best thinker in history to give fully thought out answer the question, what ought I to do? Or ano ang dapat kong gawin? And why ought I to do? Bakit kailangan kong gawin ang isang bagay or ang isang decision para sa aking sarili? In making decision, we need to consider those questions. What ought I to do and why ought I to do so? This quest has not reached its final conclusion. Instead, it seems that the human condition of finitude will demand that we continue to grapple with this question. The story of humanity appears to be the never-ending search for what it means to be fully human in the face of moral choices. The preceding chapters clarified several notion o yung mga haka-haka about sa mga theory. So, this question of what the right thing to do is, and why are question that all human beings regardless of race, age, socioeconomic, gender, culture, educational attainment, religious affiliation, or political association will have to us at one point or another in their lives. And the other notion is neither the laws of non-laws of one immediate community of wider culture or of the religious can sufficiently answer this question, especially when different duties, cultures, or religions intersect and conflict. And the other notion is reason has a role to play in addressing this question, if not in resolving them. This last element, reason, is the power that identifies the situation in which making rules and principles sometimes conflict with one another. Reason hopefully will allow one to finally make the best decision possible in a given situation of moral choices. Applying rational deliberation to determine person's ethical responsibility to herself, society, and environment is the overall goal of a college course in ethics. We shall explore all of this later in this chapter. The other reporter will be discussed about this because this my part is only the introduction. So I'm just focusing in my own topic in the introduction. So we continue. We are talking about the moral agent, the one who eventually must think about her choices and make decision on what she ought to do. And we cannot simply assume that ethics is activity that purely rational creature ages, and instead of realm real realm of morality must be understood as a truly human realm. Ethical thought and decision making are done by an agent who is shaped and dictated upon by many factors with here and without. If we understand this, then we shall see how complex the ethical situation is, one that demands mature rational thinking as well as a courageous decision making. So as a summary, in making decision we need to remember this word, what ought I to do and why ought I to do so. Bakit kailangan ko itong gawin na bagay na ito at kung bakit kailangan ko itong gawin. So just like for example, we have a different culture and each culture has a tradition or the practices that may different to each other culture. Just like for example, in some culture na bawal talagang magsuot ng mga maiikling damit, especially pagdating sa shorts. So, bago mo gawin yung isang bagay, tanungin mo muna yung sarili mo kung bakit kailangan ko itong gawin. Na alam mo namang may reward or punishment if yung rule or practices na yun is na-violate mo. So that would be all the part of introduction I've discussed a while ago, and the other reporter will be discussed the other part of this chapter, synthesis, making informed decision. Thank you ma'am and good day po.